bring the April 28th meeting of the Youth and Government City Council to beginning. All right, we'll begin with the invocation from Councilwoman Maria Gardner.
All right, may everyone please rise for the invocation. Let us pray. Gracious Lord, we acknowledge you as the author of life and the source of our freedom. You have made freedom a birthright for all people, so help us make full use of the freedom we enjoy and provide us with hearts that appreciate this gracious gift. Give us the will to preserve it, the determination to act responsibly within it, and the love to ensure that others have a similar opportunity to live in freedom. We remember those who protect our freedom, especially the military, our police force, and those who aid their service. Let us pause to remember those who are willing to sacrifice property, wealth, and life to defend our democratic heritage. Bless all those who make it possible for us to live in freedom. As we exercise the functions of city government, remind us of our civic responsibility to care for the citizens of this community. Bless our mayor and council members as they deliberate over the issues before them. Grant to all gathered here mutual respect and honor for each other, that by their words and deeds you will be glorified, and that our witness will be an appropriate example for others throughout our city. Bless us with your presence. May you be glorified in all those who speak at this meeting, and may our life together be strengthened by what is decided this day. Give us the courage to do what is right and just. For this we pray. Amen.
All right, and please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, be seated. Okay, and could the clerk please take roll?
Ms. Holt?
Here.
Ms. Belugi?
Here.
Ms. Gardner?
Here.
Ms. Rehan? Mr. Shear?
Here.
Ms. Gandhi?
Here.
And Mayor Etzel.
Here. All right, and then we will begin with the proclamation. And the first proclamation is the proclamation designating April 28th, 2015 as Youth and Government Day in Centerville, and that will be read by Deputy Mayor Sabrina Gandhi.
Thank you, Mayor. Now, this is a proclamation for Youth and Government Day. Whereas awareness and involvement in local and state and federal government are necessary goals for all of our citizenry in order to maintain our democratic way of life. And whereas it is important for young citizens to learn about and understand the role of local government, since they will be affected by the decisions rendered and they will be responsible for the well-being of the communities in which they choose to live in the future. And whereas Centerville High School continues to educate and encourage young civic leaders by coordinating Youth and Government Day each year. And whereas all youth, educators, city officials, and residents of the city of Centerville benefit from the continuance of an outstanding tradition. Now, therefore, I, Austin Edsel, Mayor of the City of Centerville, Ohio, for this 2015 Youth and Government Day, do hereby proclaim that now and henceforth, Tuesday, April 28th of 2015, shall be recognized or shall be officially designated as Youth and Government Day in the City of Centerville, Ohio. In witness whereof, I have hereto unset my hand and caused the seal of the City of Centerville, Ohio, to become affixed this 28th day of April 2015.
All right, thank you, Ms. Grandi. And then could Councilwoman Holt please read the certificate of appreciation to participants in Youth and Government Day?
Whereas each successive generation must work to maintain our freedoms and our representative form of government. And whereas the City of Centerville encourages youth to be aware of this responsibility and involved in government by coordinating Youth and Government Day with the Centerville High School each year. And whereas the City Council, on behalf of all residents, wishes to express sincere gratitude to all who facilitated and participated in this year's Youth and Government Day in the City of Centerville. Now therefore, I, Austin Edsel, Mayor of the City of Centerville, Ohio, for this Youth and Government Day, do hereby present greetings to and express sincere appreciation to the teachers, the students, the elected officials, and the staff of the City of Centerville for their involvement in this important event. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Centerville, Ohio, to become affixed the 28th day of April, 2015. All
right. Thank you, Councilwoman Holt. Now, before we move on, do Does the council have any comments or items that they wish to bring to the public's attention? All right. With that, we move on to our reports from the city manager.
It's a very active time of the year. We've been getting ready for spring, and we've been getting the city cleaned up. And I'd like to ask Public Works on a report on the community.
At the Public Works Department, one of the major programs we do each year is Clean Sweep Week, which will be taking place next week, May 4th through 7th. Residents of the city can place extra refuse, brush, and debris with no hazardous waste out on their normal pickup day for free pickup by the city. This will encourage recycling, and there will be multiple pickup trucks that will not pick up all refuse at the same time.
I'd also like to ask the golf superintendent and the head golf professional about the getting ready for spring and the golf course.
All right, so to get ready for the golf season upcoming, over the winter we had to cut down about 50 ash trees over this winter. So we redecked 2 bridges, which was $3,500 each to cost. It was on hole 2 and 4. We have filled in and grassed 7 bunkers. We have 14 to go that we plan to accomplish before the end of this golf season. And this past month we have had 4.76 inches of rain. So I'll let.
This year we're celebrating our 20th anniversary. We have lots of celebrations, events, and specials throughout the summer. This month our budget was planned to be $199,000, but right now it's $166,000 and it's planned to be $180,000. So we will miss the budget, but this is the average for April because we have had 15 rain days, which is great. We are expecting a good year and a really good summer. The outing business is up 15%, and we have added a couple new leagues, so we're expecting some revenue from that. So,
I'd also like HR to give a short report on summer employment.
We are accepting applications for seasonal positions at Yankee Trace, Benham's Grove, and the Centerville Public Works Department. These are great opportunities for anyone who wants to gain valuable work experience while learning firsthand about city operations. Additional information about these openings can be found on the city's website. I would encourage anyone who may be interested in a seasonal job with the city to apply right away. And if anyone has questions about employment opportunities with the city of Centerville, they can always contact the Human Resources Department.
If the assistant city manager could come up and give a report on the community calendar.
Starting on Thursday, April 30th, the city will be having a garage sale that it'll be promoting. It lasts till Saturday, May 2nd, and it runs all day, 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. If there are any questions about it, call 433-7151 or log on to our website at www.centervilleohio.gov.
That's all I have to report on.
All right. Do any of the city planner or any of the other members down there have any other reports they wish to give? All right. If not, we'll just move on to the new business. So the first item of business is an ordinance to amend Chapter 844, the mobile food vehicle vendors of the Centerville Municipal Code to remove background checks and to provide for an exemption from the licensure requirements of the mobile food vehicle regulations. Before we open this up to council, we will open the public hearing to see if there are any comments from the public concerning the issue. All right. It looks like there aren't anything from the public. With that, we'll close the public hearing. And any concerns from council? Comments or anything? Go ahead.
Well, when first reading over this this ordinance, what first came to mind was the issue surrounding the privacy within the public and the private domain of like the citizens and these mobile food trucks. So earlier, when discussing this over with some of the other council members, we found that certain ice cream truck deliverers or even drivers are expected to have background checks conducted upon them. And while the ice cream truck drivers are expected to hold and maintain a certain level of like professionalism and have background checks conducted upon them, I don't necessarily think that we can hold food truck drivers or all food truck drivers to the same standard. For example, when concerning ice cream truck deliveries and drivers, the demographic of people that they are normally interacting with are children and those younger than the age of 18, aka minors. So we must consider the safety of those minors when assessing whether we should conduct these background checks upon ice cream truck drivers, pardon me. So when assessing whether we should conduct the same background checks upon all food truck drivers, we must assess the type of demographic of people that they're going to be serving. So aka the customers, what age groups they're in, where they're from, and what they're going to be doing and how they're going to be interacting. So when assessing that, what I found in my research or in my thoughts concerning this ordinance is that most food truck drivers don't necessarily interact with only children. They interact with both adults and children. Therefore, these adults and children are expected to maintain a certain level of, I guess, consumer satisfaction or even like consumer interaction with their food truck drivers. And because these customers are not going to be doing anything else besides probably buying a sandwich or exchanging money for food because it's a food truck, I don't necessarily think that we should require these food truck drivers to get these expensive background checks, which can amount to a lot of money for these drivers, especially when they're responsible for conducting their own background checks and paying for those background checks as well. So I don't necessarily think it's a good idea to maintain this ideal and this idea of background checks for all food drivers, and I definitely support this ordinance.
Okay. Does anyone else have any comments regarding the background checks? Go ahead.
I am in complete agreement with my fellow council member here, but I would also like to add that to me, at least, it seems a little prohibitive on food trucks in the city of Centerville, as these background checks are very time-consuming and sometimes expensive. So it seems like it would just be easier not to operate in the city of Centerville when really that should not be the case.
All right. Any other comments regarding the background checks? Okay. Any other comments regarding the rest of the ordinance? Okay. Without any other comments, is there a motion to pass the resolution?
I move to pass this ordinance.
Is there a second?
I second that.
All right. Would the clerk like to take the vote?
Yes. One moment, please. Ms. Holt?
Yes.
Ms. Falugi?
Yes.
Ms. Gardner?
Yes.
Ms. Sheeher? Or Mr. Sheeher?
Mr. Shear, and yes.
Ms. Grandi?
Yes.
And Mayor Etzel?
Yes. All right. And I just to say I'm completely agreeing with the background check, but I feel like the rest of the ordinance has great importance to our community. Okay. So with that done, we will move on to an ordinance establishing the new chapter 1490, the pre-sale inspection of codified ordinances of the city of Centerville, Ohio. Before we open it to council, we'll open the public hearing to see if there are any comments from the public regarding the issue.
Yes, I've got a comment. My name's John Palcher. I live at 1245 Clubview Drive. And I would like the council and the mayor, if they would please comment on this invasion of privacy and Big Brother attempt be forced on the citizens of Centerville.
All right. Could you elaborate a little bit on what you mean by the Big Brother policy that you're addressing?
Pardon me?
Like, could you elaborate on why you consider that like a Big Brother policy?
Well, it's the government's attempt to force another ordinance down the throats of the citizens of Centerville that's not needed. Presently, when you sell your house, you have to have it inspected by appropriate people in order that the house is qualified for sale, as to whether you have leaks, you have puddles in the yard, any type of mechanical problem that you may have in a house. That's all happens when you go through a sale of a piece of property in Centerville presently. Though not by the city, by other people within have interest in that sale.
All right. Does the council have any comments regarding the issue?
I'd like to comment.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Palcher, for bringing that to our attention. I just think that it's important with the other ordinances that the council has previously established that we shouldn't undermine the other ordinances. I think that it's important to stay consistent within the city of Centerville. Presently, we require these pre-rental inspections for apartments and other places in the city like duplexes. So, so far we've had very few complaints on that. And I think in talking about your Big Brother policy, equality is a big thing in that, and I think that we should require them for pre-sale because they're already required for rental properties.
I'd like to comment.
Go ahead.
I think that we need to hold our city of Centerville to a standard of having houses look nice and neighborhoods look nice also. So I think pre-sale inspections are necessary, but I think now we have to consider where do we draw the line of infringing on people's privacy. Should we just inspect the outside of the house, or should we be allowed to move inside of the house and check an inspection there to keep all the houses up to standards?
Right. Currently, the ordinance only addresses the exterior of the houses. Are there any other comments regarding the invasion of privacy?
I would like to comment.
Go ahead.
I believe that this ordinance would be to the benefit of the general public in Centerville, as it seems to me that if somebody's house seems to be very falling out of shape, it affects the surrounding area in terms of like property value and local beauty, things like that. And I just believe we should be able to have city inspectors in to have a second opinion to those who are already inspecting it.
Go
I'd
ahead.
like to comment. I think this ordinance is here not to encroach on our citizens' privacy, but for the safety and well-being of the community. Like Councilman was saying, it's made or Maria was saying, to keep us to a higher standard. And I think that standard is taking in consideration our citizens of Centerville and making sure that we're taking in mind their safety and well-being in our community.
Right, and I'd just like to keep in mind with Mr. Pelcher that there is a fee when a city, like the city, comes out to inspect your house, and like you already mentioned, on top of what they pay to have the exterior and interior inspected by another private contractor or someone. So is that? I guess I'm looking more to the council. Do we agree with having the additional fee for the city to come and inspect a house on top of the one they've already paid for a private contractor?
If I may.
Go ahead.
Well, going off of this idea of like money and how much it would cost to inspect someone's home, first we must assess where this fee is falling upon. Is it falling upon the citizens versus is it falling upon the city of Centerville to provide these inspectors? So, for example, if it were falling upon the citizens, I guess that would put another wrench in our plan, because the citizens would then be responsible for paying not only the fee for them for their houses to be inspected by private companies, but also those enlisted by the city of Centerville. So when assessing that, we must see what the fee is, first of all, to see if it's exorbitant or if it's more or an expectation of privacy within their own properties, because the exterior of our home is exposed to the public, and because the exterior of the home has an effect on other property values, like another council member brought up, we must level out the level of privacy versus the level of public good. And with an exterior of a home, I think that definitely balances out for the better. Inspecting the exterior of a home isn't necessarily an invasion of privacy. However, going into the interior of a home or requiring that we go into the interior of a home would definitely qualify as something like a Big Brother invasion of privacy. However, an exterior of the home I don't necessarily think is that serious.
All right, and then, go ahead.
I would respectfully disagree with some of these opinions, but I do would like to thank the council and the mayor for the opportunity to come forward and speak about this, because it's a burning issue within my inside. But I would also say this council presently seated up there will probably do a better job dealing with this issue before it becomes before the real council. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for the comments. Are there any other opinions from the public?
Yeah, my name is Paul Gresham. I live at 870 Vintage Lake Court in Centerville, and I just have a question about this ordinance. When would this inspection take place? Would it be when I put my house on the market, when I have a contract on my house? In my reading of the ordinance, there is a $100 fee that I would have to pay to get this certificate. If I did this when I put my house on the market and it didn't sell for a year, I would be required to come back and pay another $100. God forbid that my house didn't sell for a year, but that could happen in downturn in the market. So my question is, when is this inspection going to take place? How quickly can it be done? If I have a contract on my home and the people want to close in 2 weeks, can the inspection be done without holding up my closing?
All right. That's a great question. And I think if I look at the ordinance itself, you're right, it's a $100 fee for the initial inspection, and I believe the inspection is good for 12 months. If there are multiple or severe code violations, there's a $50 re-inspection fee to come back out and make sure it's up to code. From my understanding, you should have inspected before you close and to finalize the deal on your house, so that way the person purchasing it from you knows what the issues are. That way you can either come to agreement that they buy the house knowing that it has issues, or that you must correct the issues before you actually sell the house. If the rest of council has any other additions to the process.
If I may.
Sure.
On the back of the second page, I believe, under certificate required prior to sale, it talks about in the 5 bullet points underneath it that you do necessarily, in this ordinance, with the passage of this ordinance, you would need a certificate to sell your house. So before even passing it off to the buyer, you would need a certificate saying that it was inspected by an inspector that was recommended or approved by the city. So I definitely understand where you're coming from in saying that, first of all, it is a price, there is a price tag attached to $100 for each time. And if your house does not sell, it is definitely important to consider the cumulative price increases as well. So we must look at what we're requiring our citizens to pay by passing this ordinance, and the idea that before they even pass the house off to somebody else, or if they have a potential buyer in need, they're going to have to take that stop time and that wait time to get an inspection on the calendar, to get the inspection actually taken, and wait to actually get the certificate that the inspection was taken. So that may all take some time and even delay the process of selling the house if there is a potential buyer who wants it.
All right. Are there any other comments from council? Before moving on, I was going to see if staff has any comments or anything they'd like to add, since they probably know this a little bit better than we do, or a little bit more familiar with it.
The staff, I think they have a report on this ordinance.
I don't know if I was supposed to have a paper for this, but other than that, this just helps how our community looks, with removing areas and making sure that homes look nice before they're sold, so that with our aging homes everywhere we have, they stay looking nice and they don't deteriorate to the point where they don't look good anymore.
Right, and if I'm correct, I think the city of Oakwood, just a little bit north, has a similar measure to this. And if driving through there, their homes are most of them are pretty beautiful. Not as beautiful as Centerville, of course. But I mean, I think the measures they've taken have, kept the homes looking nice, and I think that's the ultimate goal of this measure. Although I don't think we should, force it through today until we get the inspection process down. But with that, are there any other opinions from the public? All right, we'll close the public hearing. Are there any comments from council regarding anything else in the ordinance? Sure.
I would like to make a comment about moving the inspections to the interior of the home as well. Because Centerville was developed mostly as a city, even though we were founded in 1796. A lot of the development has been around in the 1960s through the 1980s. And with that comes along things that are no longer in use. The first and foremost being on my mind is asbestos. Like asbestos was used in like tiles, insulations, wallpapers, things like that. And a lot of times private inspectors might overlook something like that. You never know, maybe there's asbestos tile like hidden under your carpet, or like you're not aware of like the insulation in your home or things like that. So I believe we should try and move inspections to the interior of the home as well, as purely a safety precaution and protection to the buyer.
All right, any other comments from, sure.
I would respectfully disagree with that. If this government inspection is going to be on top of another inspection that the personal home renter or apartment renter or whatever is living in that home, there will be two people inspecting, and I just don't see why we as a government have to enter the home and overstep our boundaries when there will already be someone else possibly inspecting the interior of your home before you're trying to sell or rent out whatever you're living in.
Okay, any other comments? Sure.
Yes, I would agree with Ms. Falugi. I just think the main goal of the inspections mandated by the city of Centerville would be to keep the houses up to a certain standard so that the housing market in our city remains at the high level that it is at. And I don't think an extra inspection by the city for the interior of the house would necessarily make a huge impact on the housing market.
All right. Are there any other comments? Sure.
I would also like to respectfully disagree with my fellow council member. The interior of a home is considered private. And like I said before, as citizens of the United States of America and even of the city of Centerville, we have a certain expectation of privacy. And that privacy includes the condition of our own interior private homes. And like what was said by Councilwoman Gardner, the exterior of our homes, yes, does affect other people. However, the interior of our homes does not affect property values of our neighbors, of the city of Centerville, or anything like that. So expecting citizens to pay for yearly or annual inspections to come inside their home is not only an invasion of privacy, but it is also unreasonable to expect our citizens to pay not only $100, but probably another expense to that for the inspector to come and look at the interior of their homes as well. So because the interior of their homes doesn't affect anything for the rest of us or even their neighbors, I don't necessarily think it's just or even justifiable for the city of Centerville to require inspectors to enter someone's home or private domain.
All right. Councilman Scheer.
I would like to say that it does, in my opinion, affect other people if the interior of the home is not, for lack of a better term, up to snuff. Because say you have like improper wiring in your home and that causes a fire. Fires can spread.
I don't necessarily think that it's reasonable for us to make or force the citizens to use somebody that's appointed by the state or somebody that's endorsed by the city of Centerville to inspect their house for a second time. Also, because the city of Centerville isn't going to be paying for the inspection, I don't necessarily think that it's okay for us to justify the justify forcing citizens to use a certain inspector rather than another, because as we can see, all inspectors may or may not make a mistake. I don't necessarily think it's justifiable to say that one is better than the other in terms of appointed by City of Centerville versus a private company, because the chance for error are both the same. So using a private inspector over an inspector assigned by the City of Centerville won't necessarily make a difference.
All right. It seems just to me like the biggest concern up here is, having to do an inspection, a second time over. So I guess, is there any possible way we could amend the resolution to where, or the ordinance to where we could come to, I guess, more of an agreement as to, because I think we all agree in some form or another that an inspection done by private or public is preferred, so that the person moving into the house doesn't have unwanted problems that they were unaware of, and that the property values won't decline. So is there any way to amend the ordinance to where we could accomplish, to get to our ultimate goal?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Well, maybe if we worked with some of the private inspecting companies, we could actually create an agreement between them saying that, okay, so if a certain citizen would like to have their house inspected by a private company, they can go through the City of Centerville and say, okay, so the City of Centerville approved Inspector A to look at your house. So although they are employing a private company, that company is still endorsed by the City of Centerville. Therefore, there's one inspector that is both endorsed by a private corporation or company and the City of Centerville to inspect your home. So their one inspection of both the interior and the exterior could count for both their own inspection as well as that required by the City of Centerville.
All right, and just if there are any other additions, you are fine with the interior as well?
I'm fine with the interior, as in if the owner would like the interior to be searched, then that's perfectly fine.
Okay.
But I don't think the City of Centerville should force the owner of the home to have the interior of their house searched.
So require the exterior, not the interior, but it should be by a Centerville approved or Centerville inspector.
At least the exterior should be, yes.
Okay. Any other comments, responses, additions from council?
I would agree with Ms. Grandi.
All right.
Is there any way that we could say that the buyer of the home could hire a separate inspector to inspect the interior if they so wished?
I think that would be up to the, like I said, terms of the agreement of the sale. Personally, I would think if I were buying the house, I'd want an inspection of everything, but it'd be especially nice to have it done, by a city-approved person. Any other comments?
Going off Ms. Grandi's idea, we could have someone who's endorsed by both the government and a private company check out both the interior and exterior, but only the exterior is necessary to report back to whatever inspection is going on that the government wants to be aware of.
So only the exterior back to the city?
Yes.
Exactly.
But both the interior and exterior would be examined by that inspector.
All right. Any other comments or anything? Okay. Is there a motion to amend the ordinance then?
Said motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. We'll put the motion to a vote.
Ms. Holt,
Yes.
Ms. Falugi,
Yes.
Ms. Gardner,
Yes.
Mr. Shearer,
Yes.
Ms. Grandi,
Yes.
Mayor Etzel.
Yes. All right. Motion to amend is passed. With that, we'll move on to any citizen comments or petitions.
Name's John Palcher. I live at 1245 Clubview Drive. And over the winter, we've had another harsh winter, second harsh winter in a row. And there's a number of streets, including the street that I live on, that have big chuck holes that have resulted from wear and tear in the harsh winter. I just want to make the council aware of that. Certainly, some of the council members are probably aware of that on their own streets at the present time. But just, I would like the Public Works Director and a city manager to have a statement as to regards to how this is going to be addressed.
We'll open it up to the Public Works Director and the City Manager.
I think that with the harsh winter and we're getting ready for spring, we're trying our best to fix the problem. And if the Public Works Director could share something.
The Public Works Department is working on repairing roads as fast as possible within our budget.
All right. Are there any other citizen comments? All right. If not, then we'll move to adjournment. All right. And we will then reconvene next April 2016 for the next Youth in Government Mock Council meeting. Not bad.